Her delicate hand rests lightly on his leg, her voice soft and careful. "Because I didn't want to disturb your rest," she whispers. The sun casts a warm glow over them, making her yellow dress seem almost golden. Her words are simple, but the sincerity behind them lingers in the air, like the soft breeze brushing across the deck. He lowers his gaze, watching her small movement with quiet amusement, a faint smile curling at the corner of his lips. He lifts his head slightly, his eyes narrowing just a bit, as if trying to understand her better. Inside, a thought forms like a quiet spark. She's becoming more and more obedient, more willing to cooperate with me. The corners of his mouth curve upward. He doesn't say the words aloud, but the satisfied glint in his eyes says enough. Down below, she straightens her back and beams with subtle pride. "Sir, this is the number of fish I've caught. 7 in total," she announces, pointing toward the bucket beside her. Her arm stretches out hesitantly, toward the bucket filled with water. The sunlight reflects off the silvery fish inside, making the small catch glimmer. She looks up at him, her wide violet eyes reflecting both uncertainty and trust. He sits beside her casually, one arm draped around her shoulder, as if claiming the space between them. His faint smile holds a dangerous kind of ease, like someone used to being obeyed. Her lips part slightly, unsure what to say, the sunlight casting soft shadows on their faces. He tilts his head slightly, his gaze soft but firm. "Remember this yourself," he says, his voice calm but authoritative. "I won't forget the promise I made." She nods, lowering her gaze. "Yes," she replies obediently, her voice barely louder than the sound of the sea breeze. In that quiet moment, something unspoken passes between them, something that ties her a little closer to him. She looks up at him, her wide violet eyes reflecting both uncertainty and trust. He sits beside her casually, one arm draped around her shoulder, as if claiming the space between them. His faint smile holds a dangerous kind of ease, like someone used to being obeyed. Her lips part slightly, unsure what to say, the sunlight casting soft shadows on their faces. A man in a black suit approaches from the deck, his voice formal and respectful. "Sir, it's already past 5 p.m. You should return to the lobby for dinner," he announces. The blue sky behind him seems endless, the last rays of the sun painting the horizon in soft gold. The interruption feels almost like a gentle reminder of the outside world beyond their quiet moment. He turns his head slightly, acknowledging the words with a simple, "All right." The attendant bows respectfully, stepping forward to carry out the next task. Everything moves with the precision of a routine that's been rehearsed countless times. He remains calm, composed, his presence like the stillness before dusk settles in fully. The attendant bends down to lift the metal bucket filled with the fish she caught. The water sloshes softly inside as he straightens up. "Be careful with those fish," he warns calmly. "Each one costs more than 10 million. If you lose even one, you'll have to compensate for it." The words hang heavily in the air, making her stiffen slightly. She hadn't realized the weight of her little catch. The man in black narrows his eyes ever so slightly, his thoughts slipping out in disbelief. This is just normal fish. How could it cost so much? Ridiculous. But his expression remains composed, the doubt only flickering silently in his mind. "I bought her fish." The young man's voice cuts through his doubt like a blade wrapped in silk. "What? Are you questioning my decision?" His tone is smooth, but the warning beneath it is clear. No one dares to oppose him. She lowers her head, cheeks flushed a soft shade of pink. Embarrassment seeps into every inch of her posture. His arm is still around her shoulders, and his smile is quiet but unmistakably proud. She presses her lips together, unsure how to respond to his bold display of possession. The warmth of his body beside her only deepens the flutter in her chest, a mix of shame, nervousness, and something she can't quite name. The man in a black suit stiffens instantly, his face paling as cold sweat breaks out on his forehead. His clenched fists tremble ever so slightly as he bows his head low. I don't dare, he blurts out, his voice carrying a mixture of fear and respect. The bright blue sky behind him is calm, but the tension in the air is anything but. In front of the man he's speaking to, no one dares to challenge or question an order. Sitting on the boat, the girl leans slightly into the warmth beside her. His hand gently rests on her head, his fingers threading lightly through her soft pink hair. "If you feel tired, then you should sleep a bit," he says, his voice smooth, calm, almost like a command hidden in a whisper. "I'll wake you up after arriving at the pier." His tone carries quiet authority, but also a kind of care she isn't used to receiving. Her heart stirs as her violet eyes lift to meet his. Her lips part slightly. She begins, but the words die on her tongue. The boat rocks gently with the rhythm of the sea. His arm rests protectively around her shoulders, making her feel both safe and uneasy at the same time. She clutches the fabric of her yellow dress lightly, unsure whether to pull away or lean closer. He lowers his gaze to her, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. His expression is calm, yet there's a glimmer of something deeper in his eyes, an unspoken possessiveness. The way he looks at her makes it impossible for her to resist. He doesn't need to say anything more. His presence alone is enough to make her heart tremble. Finally, her long lashes flutter softly as her eyes close. She relaxes against him, her small frame leaning gently into his chest. The golden sunlight reflects off her hat and hair, making the moment feel almost serene. A quiet sigh escapes her lips as she drifts into sleep, the sound of the waves lulling her into a fragile peace. Time passes. Later, in a quiet room, she rubs her eyes groggily as she sits up on the couch. The soft fabric of the cushion presses against her palm. Her body is still heavy from sleep, and her hair falls in soft waves around her shoulders. She blinks slowly, trying to piece together where she is and how she got here. She lowers her hand and looks ahead. A soft, almost unguarded smile forms on her lips. Her violet eyes seem brighter in the warm light of the room, carrying a fragile kind of hope. The yellow dress she's wearing makes her seem almost like a ray of sunlight, soft, warm, and a little uncertain. A man dressed impeccably in a black tuxedo steps forward, bowing slightly in front of her. His movements are formal, elegant, and practiced, like a butler trained to perfection. She stiffens at the sight, her heart giving a small jump. His appearance is a reminder of the world she has stepped into, one that's far grander and far more dangerous than her own. She is guided to the dining room, where a long table has already been set. Plates of expensive dishes are neatly arranged, their aromas filling the air with a faint richness. A maid bows politely, placing the last dish in front of her. The girl sits upright, unsure how to react to the opulence surrounding her. The men in black stand quietly behind, their silent presence like a shadow over the lavish meal. Later that night, the soft glow of the room falls over her as she lies on the couch, fast asleep. Her pink hair spills across the pillow like silk threads, her breathing slow and even. Beside her, the man sits with an unreadable expression on his face. His gaze lingers on her calm, sleeping face, his thoughts hidden deep behind his sharp eyes. There's something possessive in his silence, something that makes the night feel both gentle and dangerous. The man in the black tuxedo stands upright, his posture as sharp as the crisp lines of his suit. A black bow tie is neatly fastened at his collar, and a golden pin rests against his chest like a mark of quiet prestige. His eyes are lowered in respectful composure, every movement calculated and precise. He is the image of a perfect butler awaiting an unspoken command. The polished marble floor reflects the light as his white shoes step forward in measured, almost silent strides. Each step echoes faintly in the stillness of the hall, announcing his arrival without a single word. His presence alone carries weight, subtle but impossible to ignore. The girl lifts her head slightly, her violet eyes widening in faint surprise. The butler, still formal and composed, turns his head in her direction. The soft sparkle in her gaze contrasts the butler's expressionless face. Though he says nothing, the gesture alone makes her feel the silent rhythm of the grand house around her. The door opens with a quiet click. A man dressed in a clean, white, high-neck sweater steps into the room, his tall figure instantly drawing attention. His expression is calm but distant, like someone used to being obeyed without question. Behind him, another man in a black suit follows, his presence quiet and deferential. On the long dining table, several dishes are carefully arranged, each radiating warmth and rich aroma. A whole steamed fish gleams under the light. Ribs are served with golden fries, and plates of braised meat and lobster tails glisten invitingly. It's a feast that speaks of both wealth and control, every detail precise. The girl, dressed in her soft yellow dress, takes a seat at the head of the table. She hesitates for a moment, her fingers reaching tentatively toward the plate. Across from her sits the man in white, composed and unreadable, while a butler stands behind like a silent shadow. The crystal glass of wine reflects the sunlight filtering through the window, painting the moment with quiet tension. His violet eyes narrow slightly as he observes her, his gaze unwavering. He doesn't need to speak. His silence alone demands her attention. The air between them grows heavier, carrying an invisible pressure that makes even the sound of cutlery seem louder. Despite the intimidating stillness around them, she lifts her chopsticks and smiles faintly, trying to break the tension. The man across the table lets a small, confident smirk curl at the corner of his lips. Their gazes lock, hers unsure but warm, his sharp and certain. A silent exchange passes between them, one that says far more than words ever could. The butler stands nearby, a worried expression flickering briefly across his composed face. His inner thoughts swirl with unease. This isn't good. Up until now, the boss has never touched anything that others have touched. This piece of fish, it came from Miss Yinka's bowl. He observes the situation closely, his posture rigid, as if bracing for a reaction that could shift the entire atmosphere in an instant. The young man brings the piece of fish to his lips with an effortless grace. The chopsticks rest steadily between his fingers, reflecting his composed demeanor. As the fish touches his lips, the tension in the room heightens, every pair of eyes fixed on him, waiting to see his reaction. With a calm expression, he closes his eyes slightly and begins to chew. The soft sound of chewing seems louder than it should be in the quiet room, marking the breaking of an unspoken rule. His elegant posture remains unchanged, his movements smooth and deliberate, as if nothing out of the ordinary is happening. A small, almost imperceptible smile tugs at the corner of his lips as he nods faintly. Not bad, he says with quiet approval. The butler's eyes widen slightly in surprise, his polished exterior slipping just a bit. This simple action, eating food from someone else's bowl, is something the boss has never done before. The man in the black suit freezes, his expression sharp as a flash of realization crosses his face. A burst of light in the background mirrors his shock. Something significant has just occurred, something that breaks years of habit and careful boundaries. From the corner, a subordinate hesitantly calls out, "Boss!"
The man in the pristine white turtleneck sits with a composed yet sharp gaze, his eyes narrowing slightly as the subordinate beside him stammers nervously. His voice cuts through the air, calm but undeniably firm. "I know it," he declares, leaving no room for argument. The sound of its legs gliding across the floor ringing clear. The subtle motion of his sleeve catching the light adds to the quiet authority of his movement. Stand up. It's not just an action, it's a signal. Something decisive is about to happen. He strides toward the door with quiet confidence. His posture is straight, steps steady and calculated. Behind him, the suited man follows at a respectful distance, understanding instinctively that whatever comes next is beyond question or debate. Before leaving, he turns his head slightly toward the girls sitting at the table. His voice is low but commanding, the kind that lingers in the air long after the words are spoken. "You must be in bed when I return. Don't think about running away. I won't be happy with that." His gaze is sharp, but beneath it there's a subtle undertone, something more complex than just authority. Left alone, the girl grips the back of the chair lightly, her expression softening into one of quiet resignation. "I know it," she murmurs under her breath. The warm light from the window spills over her, contrasting the weight in her chest. His command may have been simple, but it carries a meaning she understands all too well.